The only thing that I'm entrusted with in these water issue seminars is introducing our great speakers. And today, it's really a pleasure to introduce Melisa Rodriguez, who's going to talk to us today about Get the Let Out program that she's been involved with as a Minnesota GreenCorps member. And this is actually an area that I have been wanting to hear about for quite some time. So this is a great opportunity to hear what Melisa has been doing in the Get the Lead Out program and more about that program. Melisa has a bachelor's degree, she says, in fisheries, wildlife, and conservation biology from the University of Minnesota, with a keen interest in things avian. And so this has actually been a good match for her in being able to focus more on things bird-like and make a real difference um, in the program that she's going to tell us about. With that, Melisa, take it away. It's great to have you with us.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here. So again, hi everyone, I'm Melisa, and as I am a Minnesota GreenCorps member, I will be ending my term pretty soon, and so my last day is tomorrow. So this is just like a nice way to end my year. But let's get started with the presentation. Let's see. So this is a quick overview of what we'll be talking about today. So we'll go over the history of the Get the Lead Out program from the early 2000s to today, learn why lead fishing tackle is bad for loons, what we can do about that, and how the program has been able to continue to do educational outreach even with the restrictions we've experienced due to the pandemic. So Get the Lead Out is not a new program for the MPCA. In the early 2000s, it was created to educate and raise public awareness of the need for non-lead fishing tackle and increase its availability in retail stores. So I'll highlight a few of the program's successes. It was acknowledged nationally, and within the state, it played a role in raising consumer awareness, accelerating purchasing practices, engaging retailers, and increasing the amount of non-lead tackle that was manufactured. They also hosted tackle exchanges. So this is when people can come and bring in their lead fishing tackle, like jigs and sinkers, and in exchange, the program would give them non-lead alternatives. This is not a one-for-one exchange, but it was a way to supplement people that were willing to give away these lead products. They hosted approximately 20 tackle exchanges per summer, and by the end of the program had collected over 8,000 pounds of lead fishing tackle. With the recession, funding was cut off for this program, and round one of Get the Lead Out ended in 2010. But another major event was going on during this time, and that is the Deepwater Horizon oil spill on April 20th. The oil rig exploded, killing 11 and injuring 17 people. Once it sunk, it leaked approximately 206 million gallons of oil within 3 months, this being the biggest oil spill in US history. The oil-coated animals would washed ashore and collected in the sand and soil. An unknown number of marine animals were killed, and it affected coastal vegetation, beaches, the community, and more. Here we can see an aerial view of the spill, and you can see the extent of it in dark red. But what does this have to do with Get the Lead Out here in Minnesota? Well, it's the reason for the program's current funding. Currently, the program focuses on common loons, and many of Minnesota loons migrate to the Gulf of Mexico during the winter. So as you can see here, the arrows from Minnesota head towards Florida, so you see the flight pathway that they'll take during the fall migration. And then here, the green dots represent Minnesota loons that were recorded to be there pre-oil spill. So we knew that they inhabited this area beforehand. And because of this information and funding, research was conducted after the incident, and there were estimates that suggested that 600 to 1,000 loons died directly from the spill. So those that had survived had unknown impacts to their reproductive system, as traces of the toxic chemical dispersants that they used to clean up the spill appeared on their feathers, fat, blood system, and eggs. Another point to mention is that adult loons had already migrated north before the oil spill even occurred, but we needed to consider the juvenile loons. Juvenile common loons will take approximately 2 to 5 years to arrive to their breeding grounds, like Minnesota. So this means that once they're a chick and they grow up into a juvenile, they'll head south or to the coast, and then they'll just spend a few years before coming back to breed. So we really needed to consider these guys because those that survived the spill would have the greatest impacts as their source, as their habitat was damaged, food source contaminated, and there was that potential risk that to the reproductive system, to themselves and their future chicks. BP was leasing the oil rig during this time, so they had to compensate the public for its impacts to the environment, and they paid $20.8 billion for this environmental disaster. Minnesota received $7 million from the Open Ocean Grant through a cooperative agreement with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, as the spill did affect Minnesota loons. The DNR received $6 million to work on shoreline acquisition and restoration, while the MPCA received $1.27 million for advocacy to reduce the exposure of lead tackle to common loons. So then this starts round 2 of Get the Lead Out. So what is Get the Lead Out, or GTLO? We are an educational outreach program encouraging anglers to use lead-free tackle to protect our state bird, the common loon. So that ends our brief history about the program and how we received our current funding. So now we'll go and move forward on learning about the issue of lead fishing tackle and loons. So fishing tackle is still mainly made out of lead. It's been the traditional material to use for many years. It's easily available, the majority, and it's cheap. There are even people that make their own tackle at home, as it has a low melting point and it's malleable. So even when you see these aisles or variety of tackle available in store, if weighted, it is more than likely made out of lead. And unfortunately, the options for alternative materials are limited when buying in person. But let's say you wanted to double check that your tackle is made with lead. It should have a warning label on the packaging, except it's not apparent right away. So for example, here's a package of swivels that was bought from one of our team members. And you kind of have to search for a warning label at all until you see that in small print in the back, there is the Prop 65 warning on there. And I assume many would know what this is, but I'll still read it. It says, warning, this product contains lead, a chemical known to the state of California to cause cancer and birth defects and other reproductive harm. So we know that lead is toxic for humans, we get a label, but it is also toxic for wildlife like our loons. Unfortunately, lead poisoning is a leading cause of death for loons. It is estimated that nationally 20 to 25% of adult loons die from lead poisoning. And one way that they get lead into their system is by ingesting lead tackle. So I put on this slide. This is just a fun little slide that I created for a kindergarten class. But it shows two friends, which is that heart shape and that flower on top, that are going fishing, and what happens when they accidentally lose their tackle. So if you're fishing, you may lose tackle. It happens. Maybe you're fishing and your line snaps off, so you have to replace it. Or you may just accidentally lose a sinker and it falls into the water. So now this product is found in a loon's habitat. But this leads us to the question, how do loons ingest lead tackle? So it's ingested in two primary ways. So first is that loons pick up pebbles from the bottom of a lake or river, and they swallow this so that that goes down into their gizzard, and that helps them grind down their food, so it helps aid in their digestion. So a loon may accidentally pick up a lead sinker when picking up these pebbles. Secondly, loons love fish, so they may eat a fish that has ingested or attached fishing tackle on it. So this may happen because a fish snagged a line, or the angler let go of the fish with the tackle on it. Another way that they can actually get ingest lead tackle, sorry, is that they may actually just strike at that fishing line for the angler's bait. And you can see here in that top image, here's a loon that was entangled with fishing line, and you can see right there at the end, there is a sinker attached to that line. Here's just a fun little activity that we like to do. So here's an image of split shots mixed in with pebbles. So I'll give you guys some time to see if you can count the number of split shots found in this image. It's hard for me to tell. I still look at it. I think it's difficult. All right, so if you had found 8, then you are correct. But this just shows that a split shot easily blends in, and this would be hard for a loon to distinguish if they happen to pick it up when collecting pebbles. So just shows that that one way that they could accidentally ingest lead tackle. Here we see an x-ray of a loon that had lead poisoning, and the culprit was from consuming lead tackle. This bird did die, and we can see that it had swallowed a hook, a few sinkers, and a swivel. So it probably ate a fish with tackle on it just due to the amount of fishing gear that's inside of this loon. And you may think that ingesting all of these products led to its death, but it only takes the smallest of lead split shot to poison and kill a loon. And as you can see, that's smaller than a penny, so that's enough to be lethal. Lead poisoning is a slow and painful death and an awful way to go. Loons will have trouble breathing, flying, diving, and eating. So they slowly lose a lot of their functions to survive. And depending on the dosage, it can take up to 3 weeks for a loon to experience these symptoms before passing away. So this could be a slow and painful death. With these 3 images, they were loons that all were found to have lead poisoning. The first 2 show signs of abnormal behavior, beached on shore, that's not normal. The second one is on land. And lastly, the third one was found dead. But loons aren't the only animals affected. Swans and eagles are 2 species that are also greatly impacted by lead found in recreational products. Swans, unlike loons, are herbivores and can swallow lead when sifting through sediment on a lake. So similar to a loon when picking up pebbles. As they are large white birds, it's easy to spot one that is sick or dead versus finding a dead loon. So nearby in Badness Heights, so 20 minutes north of St. Paul, they've had a number of trumpeter swans die from lead poisoning in the recent years. So this just shows that this is clearly still an issue and it's near our home. As for eagles, they can get poisoned by eating a fish with lead tackle, again, similar to a loon, but they also have the opportunity to hunt for land animals. And so, for instance, let's say this image of these 2 eagles, they're eating this deer carcass. So if this deer was shot with a lead bullet and the hunter never retrieved it, now this deer's meat is contaminated, and so now these eagles would be getting lead poisoning. So that's just another way that eagles do get poisoned, whereas loons wouldn't experience that. The Raptor Center here in Minnesota states that on average, 25 to 30% of eagles brought into their facility are documented to have lead toxicity. Again, so pretty big for this species. So yeah, I'll take a break. So the good news though is that this is completely preventable. The easy solution is that there are alternative materials to use other than lead for both hunting and fishing. For fishing, you can use jigs and sinkers made out of tungsten, steel, tin, bismuth, glass, or stone. All of these options are non-toxic for wildlife and can perform just as well, if not better, than lead. Previously, I mentioned that finding these alternatives can be hard to find in person or in a store, but it is much easier to buy online. So we have this resource on our webpage of a list of manufacturers that produce lead-free fishing tackle, and this list has over 100 companies to choose from. And so here, we recently posted this image on our socials, and that shows just the variety of lead-free options available, and all of this tackle were from companies on our list, so it's kind of neat to see. And finally, so what can we do about this? So I'll just go through this list. First, buy lead-free tackle. So next time you're looking to replace or build your collection, consider going lead-free. We don't expect people to change overnight or go cold turkey, but buy these products if you can. Next is ask retailers to carry lead-free tackle. So if you tell your local retailer, hey, do you have lead-free products? If they start to hear that there's a demand for it, hopefully they'll supply it. Next, dispose of your lead tackle properly. So since lead is toxic, you need to get rid of it by disposing it at your local, sorry, messing that up. I'll start over. So you can dispose of lead tackle properly by going at your county's household hazardous waste site. All of them should accept it and recycle it for you. Next, share about the dangers of lead. So tell others about this issue. Your voice is a powerful tool, even if it's just to a family member, an organization, or higher up. Definitely just talk about the issue. Next, I like to put this on here. Collect monofilament and fishing tackle that you may find on the water. I know 2 years ago when I was doing surveys on shorebirds, I was boating every day, and we would always find tackle on shorelines or just on the top of the water. Definitely pick up those items as wildlife can get entangled by fishing gear. And lastly, but not like the last suggestion, but participate in citizen science programs. The Minnesota DNR has a loon watcher program, so this helps monitor loon populations. And another fun way you could help is by just participating in eBird, which is just a free community-based app where you just post all the birds that you happen to see. So you could post, oh, I saw 5 loons on this lake. So normally that is what we would present to the public, but and that would be the end of our presentation. But I'll give a brief overview of what the program has been able to do these past few months. So Get the Lead Out is primarily made up of 4 people with our supervisors, which is 2 program coordinators, Kelly Amos and Stephen Yang, and then 2 GreenCorps members for 11-month terms for 4 years. So this is the 2nd year. So for this year, the core team, everyone, even the staff, all started at the same time in mid-September. So we've been completely virtual, have seen each other only a handful of times, and we're still new faces learning how to navigate within the agency. And since we are an outreach program, our plans of attending and hosting events were canceled due to the uncertainty of the pandemic. So we needed to really adjust and focus on our energy on projects that were possible to do. So a first goal that we really wanted to do was update our resources. We still were using material from round 1, so from the early 2000s. Our fact sheet was from 2006 or 2008, and our website just contained a lot of outdated info. So luckily we were able to do that. So on the left, you can see our updated fact sheet in Spanish. Our other GreenCorps member, Elizabeth, was able to work on this project. It's a 1-pager, catchy, and it just is more concise, and we're really happy with the results. And next was updating the website. We were really successful with doing. And here again is the manufacturer list. It's a resource that we advertise constantly on our social media, and this is a project that I worked on, so I'm happy with it too. Next is providing that outreach directly to people. So again, as I mentioned, we did plan to attend sports shows, do a lot of tackle exchanges. I think the number was, it's over like 20, which was a lot to ask for, but of course that was not possible just because of the pandemic and restrictions we had from the agency. So we focused on doing virtual classroom presentations to youth. So we would go to, to youth. So just finding school districts that would allow us to speak about, get the let out and yeah, sorry. And then we would also do presentations for lake associations. And then again, we presented to other organizations that were interested in learning about the program. But eventually we did get to go outdoors. So here you can see on the left, Kelly went, this is one of our first outdoor events in the winter time. It was a fishing program. We still had to use masks. And then at the end, so this past month, or we've been able to do outreach events outdoors with less restriction, and it's been very fun to do. Another thing I will mention though is that we're attending these outdoors events that are hosted by other organizations. So this gives us the liberty to just show up and not necessarily worry about other logistics for hosting an event, which would probably be more complicated. Next, I'll plug in our social media. So if you have a Facebook or Instagram, please follow us at LetOutMN. We got permission to have these accounts, and this was another form of outreach when we felt really restricted. This increases our brand awareness, and we get to engage with others that are interested in the program. And this gives us the liberty and platform to engage with people more instantly by sharing events and opportunities that were planned in advance or showed up last minute. I wanted to highlight tackle that has been dropped off at household hazardous waste sites. We have a pilot program with 6 HHWs, 5 in the metro area. So they are Dakota, Chisago, Ramsey, Washington, and Carver, and 1 in Duluth. So the point of this was if people drop off their lead tackle at these sites, they will receive a get the lead out sample of lead-free tackle as an incentive. So having these drop-off sites and being able to advertise these locations to our audience was a huge want for us, especially since we couldn't host tackle exchanges. Another point I want to mention is when we received that image on the left from an HHW, we thought it was funny that it was in a peanut butter jar since lead's elemental symbol is Pb and it's in a PB jar. We just found it ironic, and we even replicated that image with the right photo. And lastly, I'll highlight our community partnerships through our collection kits. So we created a kit similar to our pilot program with HHWs for people to drop off tackle at a single event or temporary location, as you can see on the right with the Great Lakes Aquarium. So that way we could reach more people in various areas, and our partners could host a mini tackle exchange or table at an event to talk about the program on our behalf. This has helped us as we can't make it to every event, and it shows how the community is willing to help spread the message. And that is it for me. I thank everyone for taking the time to listen. I stumbled a bit there, but hope that was all right. Here's our website, pca.state.mn.us/letout, our email if you have any questions, and again, our social media.
Well, thank you very much, Melissa. That was I was a little bit of a sad presentation. I don't know if we should take a vote, like how bummed out everybody was during that presentation, like, oh, these poor loons. So, but that's not you did a fantastic job at pulling at our heartstrings. Clearly, I was very sympathetic to these loons, which I already am, but nice job, and what a great project to be able to work on. So if we had any questions for Melissa, you guys can go ahead and put those in the chat, or you could just unmute yourselves. We got only about 36 of us, so I think that's fine if you guys want to just unmute and ask Melissa your questions herself. I will get us started on a question for you, not so much about your project, but more about your experience with the GreenCorps program. Like, how did you get involved with GreenCorps? Like, how did you learn about it? And what was like your overall experience being a GreenCorps member?
Yeah, so I think learned, I didn't have an idea about this program in college. I just learned about it probably last year. And my initial plan was, okay, or sorry, in 2019. So in 2020, I initially was like, okay, I'll do a field season serving wildlife since that was what I majored in. And after that, I'll do this program because it just sounded interesting to to work on these projects versus, let's say, conservation corps, where it was more labor intensive. I thought I would get more out of this program. And so far, I would say that I have enjoyed the experience, even though it's not a normal service year of like being able to attend all these events and being virtual. I think we learn something more. We get to experience more hardships and able to adapt to that, which I think is a great learning experience. But overall, I would say I do enjoy my experience, and I also just like birds, so helping loons is always great.
That's awesome. And I think you're like, is it like your last day today or something? Like this week, isn't it?
Yeah, so tomorrow will be my official last day.
Official last day. Well, thank you for joining us on your like almost last day here. I hope you have some exciting plans maybe going on for your next phase here of your career. We do have a question in the chat, or maybe it's more of a comment, Scott. Scott, do you want to just unmute? Or no?
Here I am. Yep. I'm
Okay,
here.
thank you.
I can put my shades up too. I got my question isn't really a question, it's a comment, but I just listened to your presentation. It's just shocking that lead tackle is still legal and lead shot is still legal. You know, I work in water quality standards, and the surface water quality standard for lead is very low. And that's from 1984, and it would likely be even lower now. It just listening to all that, it's like, huh, I don't even know. Yeah, it's a comment. I don't have a question. Maybe, do you have any sense of if there's serious efforts to make lead tackle illegal or ban it in some way?
Yeah, we hear that comment like, oh, some people don't even know that fishing tackle has lead on it, so that's surprising for them. We are an educational program, and we're not supposed to be talking about any laws that are being made, but I know that there was an effort earlier this year, thanks to a Girl Scout, but we haven't seen anything from that. But I will mention though, there are 5 states that do have laws against it from a certain amount. So if it's smaller than 1 ounce, then it's banned. I can't remember if it's like New York, New Hampshire, Vermont, and 2 other states. And then Washington also had a law where it banned some locations that had a good loon population.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, that's great. Melissa, do you know they have that Girl Scout information somewhere? I happen to have a young Girl Scout in my house that I could share with her as an example. She's going to have to come up with a whatever this year's award is. Not, I think the silver award she's got to work on, and that would be a really fun idea. So if you had any information on what that Girl Scout did to help get legislation through to help protect the loons, if you want to share it with me, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, I'll definitely find her name. It was great to see her talk in front of a group of people. She did it virtually, and I assume there's a recording still. So I'll definitely send it your way.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's good for her.
Yeah, hi,
Do you have
Melissa.
any?
This is Mark again. Hey, I have
Hey,
a
Mark.
question. I don't know if you know the answer to it or not. I'm kind of curious what kind of, I don't, maybe you had talked about this a little bit and I didn't catch it, but what kind of success do you perceive the program is having? Is there an uptick in people who are going to more lead-free tackle? Is it something that we can measure in terms of some statistics, or do you know if it's making a difference out there with people?
Yeah, good question. I don't think we have like numbers to really represent that, oh, this is the number of people that have gone lead free. But we do see cases like, so that photo that I shared, let's see, I'm still presenting. So that photo in the middle was just from a guy that learned about the program recently, and that's him donating, or not donating, giving away all of his lead tackle because he felt really strongly about this. We still have people that don't support the program, but I would say we do have a majority of people that agree with us. I'm not sure if they have been buying lead free, since again, it's really hard to find in store, and that's a common complaint. If you can't find it right away, if you can't buy it quickly, then you have to make that extra effort to buy it online. So I am not sure, but I would say we do have support for it, just not sure how many are doing it.
And Kelly has posted in the chat that the states that currently have lead bans are Massachusetts, Maine, New York, New Hampshire, and Vermont. So you did have them all right. It's kind of a lot of those East Coast states that actually do have a ban on that. And I'm sure maybe this year one of the plans was to have like a tackle exchange that probably couldn't happen. I know that's something in the past that because I think we had a GreenCorps member, 2 GreenCorps members pre-pandemic. So whatever that was, like 2019, that service year, there was 2 that I sat right across from who I know were working on a similar effort. I think this is a kind of longer term GreenCorps project, but I think they did an exchange. So you guys probably weren't able to do that this year though?
Yeah, no, I don't think last year's members were also able to do it because we would normally do that during the summertime.
Okay.
They did attend some sports shows, but no, we were not able to do any exchanges this year, but we are planning to do one in September. But that would be the team's responsibility. So I'm not sure how how far or if they have anything planned yet. So
well, if they have a date, this is a great crowd to let know about what that date is for that lead tackle exchange opportunity, and they can share it with their networks. And so somebody from the team wants to let the water issues group, we have an email that listserv that we can email that would reach even more people than just those who are here today. So let us know when you've got that date, and we can help spread the message. We got some more activity going on here in the chat. You guys feel free to unmute yourselves. So it looks like more than 2,800 people have viewed the manufacturer list on the MPCA website, it looks like. All right. Oh, and then there's some information for me about an Eagle Scout in Massachusetts. Thank you. John, are you able to unmute and share your comment, your expertise with the group here and your comment?
Sure. This is John Gilkison, just responding to one of the earlier questions. Throughout the program, the initial phase of the program and the short time we had with the new program before the pandemic hit, we have iPads at our booths with a survey that we ask everyone to take to get their sample, and those surveys over time have shown increasing levels of awareness of this issue, the importance of it, and support for a statewide phase out of lead tackle. Also, to respond to Scott Kaiser's question earlier, there are a lot of interests who want to make sure that nothing affects the manufacture and sale of lead tackle and ammunition. So that's a barrier. Some of us were on a webinar yesterday with some lobbying groups for the industry that are fighting. That was the issue.
Awesome. Thanks, John. And John can let us know. John can tell us when that event is. I'm sure you'll be in a loop on that, won't you, John?
I'm sorry, which event?
The Get the Lead Out, the exchange program that Melissa said she thinks is happening this September.
Kelly and Stephen are in charge of that. I follow their lead.
All right. Do we have any additional questions or comments, information to share with the group that might be interesting around lead tackle? If not, there is no problem ending a little bit early. I think we'll all appreciate the extra 20 minutes of free time. I won't tell anybody that you got done early, so no one will know that you're not at a water issues talk for the next 20 minutes, so you can get that work done that you really get distracted from with all the emails and requests that you're getting. So go ahead and get some extra work done. And thank you so much to Melisa for stepping in and sharing her work with us today at the Water Issues Talk. This will be our last GreenCorps member presentation for the year. We like to do a couple every year, but they only have an 11-month time period, so we got to try to catch them when they have their results to share, but before the end of August, when they all take off to great new ventures in their career. So thanks again, Melisa, for not only sharing your work with us, but for your service of being a GreenCorps member this past year and adapting to, the challenging times that we're living here in COVID. It's been great to learn about it, and we're fortunate, and so are the Loons, are very fortunate to have dedicated folks like you out there doing great work to
Yeah, thanks, Melissa. It was an interesting talk. I learned a lot.
Thanks for having me.